Order. I call this meeting to order. This is the Standing Committee on Human Resources. My name is Chris Palmer. I'm the MLA for Kings West and the chair of the committee. Today, in addition to reviewing appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions, we'll hear from the Department of Advanced Education and the Department of Education and Early Childhood Education, a Nova Scotia Teachers Union, Public School Administrators Association of Nova Scotia Government and General Employees Union, and the Nova Scotia School Board Council of Unions regarding recruitment and retention in public education. And that was a mouthful. So at this time, I'd like to please ask everybody, Happy New Year, everyone, by the way. Welcome to our committee. I'd like to ask everybody to please set your phones to silent at this time. And be sure when you're called to speak, don't touch your microphone. Ledge TV will handle it for you. And at this time, I'd like to ask all of our committee members to please introduce themselves for the record, and we'll begin with MLA Burns.
Hi, good morning. My name is Rick Burns. I'm the MLA for Hammonds Plains Lucasville. Thank you for coming.
Good afternoon, everyone. Trevor Boudreau, the MLA for Richmond.
Brian Wong, MLA, Waverley Fall River Beaverbank.
Happy New Year, everyone. Emily Fadari, Adigogi Fadari, Emily for Clay Park West.
Ian Rankin, Timberley Prospect.
Paul Wozni, Sackville Cobequid, and I use he, him pronouns.
Good afternoon, everyone. Susie Hanson, MLA for Halifax Needham.
Thank you, committee members. And for the purposes of Hansard, I'd also like to recognize the presence of Legislative Counsel Genevieve Harvey to my left and Legislative Committee Clerk Robin Dan to my right. At this time, we'd like to ask our guests to indulge us in our committee for a few minutes as we do some of our business that we have to do for agencies, boards, and commissions. So we'll do that, and then we'll come right back to you. So we'll begin with MLA Burns.
Thank you. So first nomination for the Department of Emergency Management. I move to recommend David Wilson be appointed as a member and chair to the E911 Cost Recovery Committee.
Motion on the table. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Health and Wellness, I recommend Larry Clement and Beverly Patterson be appointed members, public representative to the Board of Nova Scotia College of Optometrists.
Motion on the table. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. MLA Burns.
For the Department of Natural Resources, I move to recommend James Elworth and Douglas Theedum be appointed members to the Shubenacadie Canal Commission.
And motion on the table. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Okay, so that concludes our appointments to agencies, boards, and commissions. At this time, we'd like to welcome our witnesses for our topic today, recruitment and retention in public education. Would like to offer you all an opportunity to introduce yourself and where you're representing, and then we'll get into opening statements after that. So maybe we'll begin with Dr. Boulter on this side, and we'll go down the table there.
Good day, everyone. My name is Chris Boulter, and I'm a Senior Executive Director at the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development.
Good morning, everybody. Tracey Barbrick, the Deputy Minister of Education, Early Childhood, as well as Advanced Education. Thank you for having us.
Good afternoon. I'm Dave Jones, Regional Executive Director of Education for the Annapolis Valley Regional Center for Education.
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Day, President of the Nova Scotia Teachers Union.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amy Hunt. I'm currently the chair of the Public School Administrators Association of Nova Scotia. Peace hands.
Good afternoon. My name is Sandra Mullen, President of the Nova Scotia Government Employees Union here and representing many members at 5 of the different centers for education. So.
Good afternoon. My name is Mary Fougere, and I'm a CUPE staff person, and I presently work as the Education Sector Coordinator in the province of Nova Scotia.
Good afternoon. Al Linkletter. I am the President of CUPE Nova Scotia.
Thank you, one and all. I'd like to offer our guests an opportunity to provide some opening remarks if they have any, and I believe Deputy Barbrick, you have some opening remarks. We'll begin with you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today to speak on behalf of the Departments of Advanced Education and Early Childhood, as well as our Education early childhood and advanced education, to talk about recruitment and retention in Nova Scotia's public school system. Following COVID-19 and the ensuing population growth in Nova Scotia, recruitment and retention across all sectors and industries has required focus unlike anything that has been existed since following World War II. Literally in 1951 to 1961, Nova Scotia grew by 95,000, and in the last 4 years alone, we've grown by 100,000, to put that in context of what the challenges Nova Scotia has faced. My colleagues across government departments and our sector partners have appeared before various committees, exactly as we are today, on workforce and efforts to address shortages in trades, healthcare, tourism, and education has not been unique in the workforce challenges that we have faced. After years of major growth, more than 10,000 more students since COVID, growth in the school system has now stabilized at a more predictable and manageable level, measuring less than 1% this past year. In recent years, there have been significant efforts made to recruit and retain both teachers and other school staff, such as bus drivers, teachers' assistants, school counselors, and all allied professionals, and these efforts are showing progress. We have enough teachers to staff every classroom, more than 10,000 full-time teachers and 3,000 substitutes, with a very high retention rate and a responsive approach to recruitment, issuing approximately 850 teaching certificates last year. Since 2019 to 20, the number of Bachelor of Education seats have increased significantly, from 300 to 550, which, combined with a new alternative and streamlined pathways to becoming a teacher, provide a range of options that can meet the needs of our system. We have added professionals to the education system to ensure supports are there for those that need them, including 472 additional classroom teachers, 283 education specialists, and more than 1,400 total positions focused on improving student outcomes. That said, we do have pressures in specific teaching areas in certain regions and in specialized support roles. French, STEM, and skilled trades remain hard to recruit subject areas province-wide, and all regions and CSAP report a high need for teachers that are Mi'kmaq and African Nova Scotian. In many cases, workforce reporting has been manual, posing barriers to recruitment and retention work, namely the absence of data and analytical tools as well as standardized staffing models. We're now turning our attention to those pieces to create a deep shared understanding of our system's needs and ensure we're focused on areas of real pressure so we can continue to build a stable, effective workforce that supports students across the province. This work, like so much of the work of the departments, will involve all of the organizations represented by my fellow witnesses. Their perspectives are crucial, and we value our relationships with PSANS and our labor partners in NSTU, CUPE, NSGEU, SEIU, and ASUPI, who are not here today. In closing, I ask you to keep in mind that strong recruitment and retention is not an end to itself. This work is part of a bigger picture to ensure stable classrooms, supported educators, and better outcomes for students across the province. We are very committed to that goal.
Thank you, Deputy. I believe, Mr. Day, you had remarks as well.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today on behalf of the 10,000 public school teachers and specialists represented by the Nova Scotia Teachers Union. Nova Scotia, like other jurisdictions across North America, is struggling to keep pace with the growing demand for teachers and specialists. The impact of this is being felt in schools across the province. Given the importance which children hold for our province's future, we need to be especially vigilant to ensure the needs of all students are being met. Increasing the supply of new teachers may help address short-term gaps, and the Nova Scotia Teachers Union is concerned that the current approach places far too much emphasis on recruitment alone, while paying insufficient consideration to retention. Simply put, we cannot recruit our way out of a shortage if we continue to lose teachers at the current rate. Studies show that approximately 1/3 of new teachers leave the profession within the first 5 years. That represents a significant loss of talent, training, and public investment. It also reflects a human cost for educators who enter the profession with passion and commitment, only to find the working conditions unsustainable. If we are serious about solving the teacher shortage, retention must become a top priority. Teachers are telling us very clearly what would help them stay: manageable workloads, smaller class sizes, better access to supports, and safe, respectful learning environments. Increasingly, teachers are being asked to do more with less. More complex student needs, larger and more diverse classes, and fewer specialists available to provide support. That reality is driving stress, burnout, and ultimately departures from the profession. Teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions. When teachers are overwhelmed, when classrooms are overcrowded, and when supports are missing, students feel those impacts directly. Retaining experienced, well-supported teachers is one of the most effective ways to improve student outcomes across the system. The shortage is especially acute in key areas, including French language education, mathematics, technology, school counseling, and specialist roles such as school psychologists and speech-language pathologists. These are not optional services. These professionals support students' mental health, learning needs, and overall well-being. When these positions go unfilled, students with the greatest needs are impacted the most. Families wait longer for diagnostic assessments, teachers struggle without essential supports, and students fall further behind. To compound the problem, when substitutes are not available, specialist teachers are often the first to be pulled away from their critical duties to supervise classrooms. During these formative and precarious years, when every interaction can have a lasting impact, it is imperative that we take every possible measure to ensure the needs of every child is being met. Supports need to be available when they are required, not just on occasion. The NSTU believes a comprehensive strategy is needed, one that includes recruitment, yes, but also makes sustained investments in retention. That means increasing supports for new teachers, improving classroom conditions, strengthening student support services, protecting planning time, addressing class size, and ensuring schools are safe and supportive places to teach and learn. We all share the same goal: a strong public education system that meets the needs of every student in every community. Achieving that goal depends on having enough qualified, supported teachers and specialists in our classroom and schools, not just next year, but for decades to come. We look forward to sharing our perspective with the committee today and working collaboratively on long-term solutions that will strengthen public education in Nova Scotia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Ms. Hunt, I believe you have opening remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee, for this opportunity to appear today and to highlight recruitment and retention in public education in Nova Scotia. Public education is one of Nova Scotia's largest and most complex workforces, and ensuring a strong leadership pipeline is essential to the long-term stability of our system. Across the province, more than 133,000 students and over 370 schools are supported by approximately 20,000 educators and staff, with school and system leaders playing a central role in coordinating all of that work. The Public School Administrators Association of Nova Scotia, PSANS, represents all principals and vice principals, as well as system-level educational leaders in every regional centre for education, as well as CSAP. Our members provide daily instructional, relational, and operational leadership in schools and across the system. Student achievement and well-being remain the center of our work, which increasingly involves coordinating broad circles of care around students, working closely with families, communities, regional services, and external agencies. It is deeply human-centered work, and it is also highly meaningful and professionally rewarding. PSANS currently represents approximately 870 administrators and school and system leaders. Each year, we see about 35 to 40 retirements across our full membership, alongside roughly 100 new administrators stepping into leadership roles. Many of these new leaders are serving in short-term assignments, acting roles, or filling leaves of absences. And this reflects both a strong preparation pathway and a healthy level of interest in educational leadership in Nova Scotia. While there is ongoing public discussion about recruitment and retention, From our perspective, the key question is not whether people are willing to step into leadership, but how we ensure we continue to attract the very best candidates and maintain a strong, sustainable leadership pipeline for the future. At present, there is limited longitudinal data to determine whether administrators are leaving the role earlier than in the past, and the broader teaching pipeline remains strong. What we are seeing, however, is a growing set of competing demands placed on school and system leaders. Administrators are managing increasingly complex operational and safety responsibilities alongside their instructional leadership roles. PSAN's focus is therefore on building leadership capacity through high-quality professional learning while continuing to advocate for sustainable workloads, public recognition, and respect for the role. We believe that when administrators are well prepared, well supported, and valued, they are more likely to thrive. And most importantly, strong leadership is one of the most important contributors to stable schools and positive outcomes for students. We appreciate the opportunity to share our perspective. Look forward to a constructive discussion this afternoon about how to support educational leadership now and into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. Ms. Mullen.
Thank you, and good afternoon. NSGU represents thousands of members in public education and support staff in our schools, from our educational assistants and pre-primary educators on the front line to administrative professionals, library personnel, and the IT specialists who keep the system running. Our schools and classrooms of today are vastly more complex than even 5 years ago. We are seeing a significant increase in the acuity of student needs, requiring specialized and one-on-one supports. And when these supports are stretched too thin, it creates high-pressure environments that compromises both learning and safety. We are mindful of the projected billion-dollar provincial deficit. However, I must be clear that no government can cut their way to a functional and safe education system. Austerity has failed as a recruitment strategy, and to attract new talent, we must provide this as a viable, respected career. To retain the people we already have, we must address the stress and the rising tide of classroom violence that is driving workers away. To address the crisis, we urge governments to increase staffing ratios. One EA cannot meet the high acuity needs of multiple students simultaneously. Recruitment improves when workload is manageable. Support our admin professionals. These workers are the first point of contact in our schools and have to deal with the complexity of modern school operations and violence. They need adequate staffing and resources to manage these demands safely and ensure competitive compensation. We are losing skilled staff to other sectors because wages haven't kept pace with the complexity of the work and the cost of living. We also need to prioritize safety through staffing. A well-staffed school is a safe school. Proper staffing levels are the most effective tool we can have to reduce burnout and incidents of violence. Retention is the best form of recruitment. If the staff we have are supported, they will stay. If we provide a safe, well-resourced environment, others will join. Thank you. I look forward to further questions.
Thank you. And I believe, Mr. Linkletter, you have some remarks.
On behalf of over 5,000 school support staff across the province, I'd like to thank the committee for the invite here today. My goal is to highlight significant issues impacting the standard of public education in this province. This includes a response to school violence, a lack of transparency around staffing, and the absence of job security, decent wages for workers. First, workers aren't safe in their workplace. We know this. But did you know that school support staff continue to experience violent incidents every day? That means our kids are experiencing violence every day. This issue has been sitting at crisis level now, and things are getting worse. Instead of improving reporting mechanisms, recent updates, the Code of Conduct, are taking Nova Scotia's public schools a step backwards. On top of that, the lack of meaningful action to improving staffing levels, which is critical to the operation of our schools and the health and safety of our school communities. Workers are often not replaced and others are assigned additional work. This is a risk factor for violent incidents, but it also impacts the learning environment to determine of students. I hear stories of kids with special needs who are supposed to have one-on-one support, going to school and being told that the person assigned to help them will also have to support 3, 4, or even more students that day. How is this enhancing their learning, let alone promoting inclusivity? Lastly, recruitment and retention cannot be improved if the sector does not attract workers, but many of our members work a second or even third job to make ends meet. Add to that, they are in precarious positions with no long-term employment stability. Don't we all want a safe workplace with good wages and good working conditions? We have the solutions. We have recommendations from the province's Auditor General and from the Safe Staff Schools report. We even have agreements outlining how those solutions will be implemented. We know what our school needs. We know what workers need. We just need to want to make public education better. We just need to move forward with the answers we already have, not backwards. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all of you for your remarks. We will begin our questioning from our members now to you. And just a reminder, we will be giving the opposition, official opposition NDP 20 minutes, the Liberal Party 10 minutes, and then the governing party will have 30 minutes of questioning in the first hour of questioning. When it comes time to the transition, I will be, if you're in the middle of speaking, I will cut you off because we do have to keep our schedule. So just a little forewarning, and we'll give you a little heads up as the time is approaching. So at this point, we will begin with our official opposition, and we'll go to the NDP, and I believe MLA Hanson, you'll begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is to the Nova Scotia Teachers Union. A survey of the NSTU members revealed that 84% of the teachers and school specialists in this province had considered quitting. One of the main reasons provided was that they felt like their employer, which is this government, did not respect them. Why do teachers feel like this government does not respect them, from your perspective?
Mr. Day.
Thank you for the question. You know, when you look at our teachers who go in and give so much of themselves each day, you know, they give their heart and souls because they love their job. It's very disheartening when more and more gets downloaded onto our teachers, and our teachers are being asked to do more with less. We've repeatedly, you know, asked for class sizes to be appropriate, to have the specialists in there so that the students' needs can be met. You know, sometimes it feels like falling on deaf ears. However, I can say that with the new school code of conduct, there was some collaboration there, so that was a little bit positive. But what we'd like to see with that is moving forward, what supports are being put in place. You know, when we ask these questions, it's great to have this document and it's great to have this policy that addresses the school code of conduct, but you know, what supports are being put in place for the teachers that will allow them to ensure that the students' needs are being met. And I think a big part of that is making sure that the teachers' voices are being heard and that their concerns are being respectfully considered.
MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for that. Since 2017, the province has had caps on the number of students, and you mentioned that, in each classroom to keep the class sizes manageable. Yet, as we know, and we've heard, that many classrooms end up exceeding these caps. Can you explain how overcrowded classrooms contribute to teachers experiencing burnout, and how many classrooms are currently exceeding this cap?
That's to Mr. Day, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Day.
Thank you for the question. As far as the number, I wouldn't have that information. That's the NSTU doesn't have that information. That would be the employer that would have that. To your question about as far as the caps go and the effect that has, our teachers, you know, we have students with a variety of needs, and we're seeing the complexities in our classroom grow more and more. So, you know, if you have a classroom with a certain number of students that are at the cap, depending on their grade level, and then after October 1st, you start getting new students to the area, and then that class number increases, And then those students are bringing complexities with them, whether they have learning disabilities, whether they have behavioral issues, they could have individualized program plans. All of these complexities build towards making it the classroom less manageable. And that's the key focus right there is, we need to have a manageable classroom size so that our teachers can continue to build the relationships with the students, to make those connections with the students so that they can see the potential and help those students grow. If teachers are overcrowded, if the classrooms are overcrowded, then teachers have less and less opportunity to do that.
MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My next question is to the Department of Education and Early Childhood Development. Nova Scotia's teacher shortage is well established. In 2024, 98% of Nova Scotia teachers union members voted in favor of a strike mandate, in part because they saw that their employer, which is this government, did not have a plan to end Nova Scotia's teacher shortage. Last month, after extensive consultation, the government of New Brunswick released the teacher retention and recruitment strategy. My question is, why hasn't this government done the same? And why has this government left teachers, students, and parents without a plan?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question. So a couple of things that I just want to acknowledge. So the department has recognized the lack of what I'd call pure data around gaps, location of those gaps, attrition rates. So one of the things that we stood up back in the spring was a data and analytics team that has been really digging into some data to make sure that we're basing things on fact and not sort of a particular case. So a few things I would just like to offer. One is that we've just recently determined that our attrition rates, or the people leaving the teaching profession, I don't want to mix up all of the very important support workers that we don't have this level of data on yet, but we need to get there. So right now we have an attrition rate caused from retirement of 3% of teachers. Last year, 3% of the teachers retired. It's about 140 teachers. And 1.5% of teachers left the profession to do something else. We don't know what that something else is. They may have come to work for the department. They may have gone to work for the teachers union. They may have left the province to teach somewhere else. So that's a level of data that we have not had available before. And we need to work closely with all of our counterparts to achieve that level of data and be able to really make sure we're working in the targeted areas that require special attention to make sure that students are supported as they should. In terms of a strategy, so I just want to hit some high points on the cluster of work, because we can produce strategies and we can do a bunch of action items that get you to the same point. So over the last 4 years, the work that has been done collectively with all of the partners and all of the people involved have been a version of 1,400 new support staff in schools since 2021. There's a wide variety of what those supports are. BED seat growth has gone from 300 to 550 BED seats. And many of our post-secondary partners have diversified how they offer a BED program. There's accelerated programs, there's continuous programs, there's hybrid virtual in-class programs, and those seats are full. The collective agreement for teachers was finalized in 2024. It included wages to have for teachers, Atlantic leadership around wages. We increased the substitute rate. We've added marking and prep time. We've added a discretionary leave day. We have done unprecedented infrastructure investment to make sure that the conditions of the schools are what you would want for your students and for workers. We've done a whole lot of work around substitutes to make substituting more appealing, and that's working. We've added 400 people to the substitute list in the last couple of years. My colleagues at the RED, Dave Jones could certainly speak to, do a lot of combined recruitment that is relatively new. And then the school safety, of which code of conduct is one piece, additional 50 staff around code of conduct, as well as some very clear instructional supports around 19 different areas of unacceptable behavior and standardizing response to that. So we do not have a strategy. However, these elements of work has been what's happening for the last 4 years. We continue to talk to our partners about what we should do next to continue to ensure that our classrooms is what you would want for our children.
Thank you. MLA Wozni.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to direct this question to the Nova Scotia Teachers Union. Teacher recruitment and retention is something rank-and-file teachers have made clear that this government needs to be a priority to address the impact of the global teacher shortage here in Nova Scotia. So much so that the most recent collective agreement between the NSTU and department includes a comprehensive Memorandum of Understanding. On page 88 of the agreement, it outlines Memorandum of Understanding 11, Committee to Consider Nova Scotia Teacher Recruitment and Retention. I'm wondering if you can tell me if this committee was struck and how many times it met.
Mr. Day.
Thank you for the question. Yes, the committee was struck, and we did have representation on this committee. It was made up of a number of individuals from across the province, including 2 NSTU staff members. I'm not sure the exact number of times that they met, but I do know that they met a number of times and that those meetings have concluded.
Thank you. MLA Wozni.
Just to follow up on the same line, any indication of when the public can expect this committee's work to conclude and when the public can expect to receive its report?
Mr. Day.
Thank you. My understanding is that the committee's work has concluded. As far as a report coming out from that committee, that's not under my purview. That would be the employers.
MLA Wozni.
Perhaps on that question to EECD, the last question, when can we expect the committee, having concluded its work, its report to be made public?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question. So under the collective agreement, that committee was struck. It was advisory in nature. So in August, the 2 parties that included our department staff as well as NSTU did provide us some recommendations, and those recommendations as part of the TPA were to be provided as suggestions to be considered into the future. There wasn't a commitment around that element of the contract that would be a public-facing document. So we have worked with a number of parties involved, and numerous of the recommendations that have been from the combined parties are work that's now underway. If you want to talk about that a little bit, I think my colleague Chris Boulter could provide a bit more information on some specific elements of those recommendations that are underway in various ways.
MLA Wozni, that be information that do you feel it's like to hear from Dr. Boulter?
No, I'm just curious as to why, given the public interest in a robust, healthy public education system where recruitment and retention has been flagged as a priority, something that the department and the NSTU are bound to study and report back on, why there's a lack of transparency around the findings of them. If there's nothing secret here, if there's no smoking gun, if there's no heads rolling, why would this information not be disclosed to the public so we have a clear sense of what recommendations have been made to both government and NSTU? This is not strictly on the government. Why the public wouldn't be aware of recommendations that both parties could partner on to benefit the school system.
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question. No state secrets. The recommendations were positioned in the collective agreement as advisory to the 2 parties to be factored in the future. That's what we've done. The recommendations are, kind of broad in nature. And the work that's happening within the department is to look at moving some of those pieces forward, if you would like. Chris Boulter could certainly provide some details on some of those pieces that are moving forward.
Emily Wozniak, do you have another opportunity to hear from Dr. Boulter? Would you like to hear him from?
No, I would just comment, I think, given that we've just heard that there is no strategy currently in place, there's a lot happening, but there's no master plan guiding all those efforts. If you have a set of recommendations that could look at all of the work happening and inform, identify where there's further work to be happening, if there's cause for celebration, it just makes sense to disclose this so that both parties have a sense of what the common goals are rather than a lot of things happening. I'd like to move on with another line of questioning if I could, Chair.
Emily Wozniak.
This question is for the Nova Scotia Teachers Union. The federal government recently announced a student loan forgiveness program to incentivize individuals to live and work in rural areas of the country. And I understand that this program applies to teachers living and working in rural Nova Scotia. My question is, beyond this federal program, what other concepts or models that promote retention of teacher graduates could be actioned in this province, in your opinion?
Mr. Day.
Thank you for the question. To my knowledge, currently there are no incentives. While the federal government federal loan forgiveness program is going to be a great boon to many teachers. Currently, I'm not aware of any from the provincial government. However, there's a number of programs that have been available, that are currently available. Like, there are incentives for many professionals in Nova Scotia. The skilled trades, the MOST program, which is more opportunity for skilled trades, is a program which encourages young individuals, young Nova Scotians to stay in the province, take advantage of that. There are continuing care workers. Healthcare workers had incentives to work in Nova Scotia, and even in the not too distant past, there was the graduate retention program, which was the Nova Scotia residents received a tax incentive. These are all programs that are would be beneficial to our professionals. Like, we know that healthcare is important to Nova Scotians. We know that our skilled trades are important to Nova Scotians, and we know that education is important to Nova Scotians. So if this is something that has had positive outcomes, then it's something that we can continue to do, and I would hope that the government would take part in.
Thank you. Emily Wozniak with 3.5 minutes.
Thank you for those suggestions. One more question for the NSTU. In recent years, we've seen changes made to Bachelor of Education programs in hopes that we can train ourselves out of the current teacher shortage. You have highlighted in your public advocacy on behalf of the NSTU that more than a third of new teacher graduates leave the profession or province within the first 5 years, which is quite a stark attrition rate. What can you tell us about the prominent issues driving such severe attrition rates amongst early career teachers? And, in your opinion, what measures could the department partner on with the NSTU to support greater long-term retention of early career teachers?
Mr. Day.
Thank you for the question. When you look at trying to retain teachers, I mean, first of all, we do need a strategy. We need a provincial strategy, and that involves collaboration and cooperation with all aspects of the government, and ensuring that we can have that positive working relationship. When you look at new teachers coming into the profession, they have the regular lesson planning, preparing for several different courses, developing engaging and thought-provoking activities that build those relationships with the students. And that is the job of a teacher. But for our new teachers, that's a lot in itself. But to go along with that, they have to deal with all the things that I've mentioned, right? They have to deal with, overcrowded classrooms. They have to deal with class complexities. They have to deal with diversity of needs, mental health challenges, lack of supports. All of these things increase the difficulty and whether or not these teachers are able to meet the needs of their students. we're seeing greater demands from our employer as far as when it comes to data. I can tell you that our elementary teachers have essentially doubled their reporting that they need to do. And I can tell you, continuously taking the temperature isn't going to cure the flu. So we have to look at giving these teachers the time that they need to develop those relationships so that they can work with those students. Because at the end of the day, we want to ensure that we have the best and most qualified people in front of our students. Because our students, this is what we're doing this for. This is our greatest resource, and we need to ensure that Nova Scotia has a healthy and bright future.
MLA Wazee with 45 seconds.
Just a quick question for the department. In your opening remarks, Deputy, you flagged a desperate need for teachers who are Indigenous and African Nova Scotian. In the current collective agreement between the NSTU and the government, on page 77, there's a letter of understanding called Equity and Diversity Initiatives. It includes a coordinating committee. It states the committee is supposed to meet 3 times a year to fulfill its mandate. And at the end of 2026, there's supposed to be an annual report to the minister on progress made across all education entities on diversity, recruitment, and retention. What can you tell us about the state of that report and the work of that committee?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Order. Sorry. That concludes our first round of questioning from the official opposition. We'll now move to the Liberal caucus. And MLA Rankin, you'll have 10 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And that's an important question. So if we could get the answer from the deputy on that question. Sorry, Deputy Barbrick, I'll give you a chance to answer that.
Deputy Barbrick, yourself, or you want to redirect? It's up to you.
Yeah, I will start to offer a couple of things that are happening, and then Chris Boulter can offer something more specific to that. But generally, the other element that's in the collective agreement is a provision to ensure that diversity hiring takes a priority for us in hiring processes. And all of our regional education directors, Dave Jones is one of them, can talk about specific initiatives in their own area. In addition to that, we are working with a number of our BED programs to do specialized cohorts in education programs. And it is absolutely true, particularly for Indigenous Nova Scotians, that people want to work in their own communities. And MK is the organization that actually runs schools in Indigenous communities. And a lot of our folks that might otherwise come into the public education system are choosing to work at MK, and we support that. So lots of ongoing work there. But if you like, I'm going to ask Chris if he can speak a little bit to the other piece.
Thank you. Dr. Boulter.
Thank you very much for the question. Last spring, we did have some engagement with the Nova Scotia Teachers Union, who is also a collaborative partner in this. The work continues in relation to that particular article. One other thing that I would point out from that, just to do an and with Deputy Barbrick's piece, in terms of new teacher induction this year, one focus I know regional centres are working on, every regional centre and the CSAP has both a coordinator of African Canadian services and a coordinator of Mi'kmaq services. And certainly we recognize as new teachers come into the system who would be of Indigenous ancestry or African Nova Scotian, it's so essential to have some supports right from the start for those new teachers and ensure that they feel welcome, included, and supported. And I do know through the regional centres that there is a concerted effort towards ensuring coordinators and other staff at the regional level ensure that those teachers are supported and people are, in contact with them and supporting their work as they make their way and start up in the system. Thank you.
Thank you. MLA Rankin.
Thank you, and that's good to hear. I think the success of the IB&M program through the Dow Law School speaks to how much we can actually help with the gaps and the equity issues. I want to ask about the 550 seats that we now have, like for the programs and the Bachelor of Education programs. I think I heard you say that those seats are full, but are they actually full, the 550, or are they the ones that you were referring to, Deputy, with the specialized pathways? I know you spoke to the hybrid and all the different new pathways to help with students. Just clarify that.
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I want to recognize our partners in the post-secondary institutions for the work that they have done to expand BED seats over the last 3 years. The specific, so I'm putting on the advanced education hat for a second. The bilateral agreements with the universities have just recently, in our last round, added BED programs as one where we are prioritizing Nova Scotia students first. So the universities in the BED seats are accepting Nova Scotia students first, and then they go to the pool. And the intent is that Nova Scotian people often want to stay in Nova Scotia, and our retention of those students presumably will be better over time. So we have 5 universities that offer BED seats, and they're all doing a little bit of a different tailored design, all approved by the maritime organization that has to approve all university-based programs. So while the offering and how it's delivered can look different, the content has to meet the MPHEC requirements. So Acadia has 120 seats. In that, they have a 16-month program. They also have a 3-year Afrocentric cohort that's going through the program now with a graduation 2027. Cape Breton University has a 12-month program and 115 students. Mount St. Vincent has 2 different programs, a 2-year and a 14-month program, and they have 150 students. St. FX has a 2-year and a 3-year off-campus hybrid program that has 105 students, and University of St. Anne has a 2-year BED and a 5-year combined undergrad and BED, as well as a 16-month program, and they have 65 students. So all of those universities have achieved their 97% target, including the BED programs.
Thank you. MLA Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And do any of those programs that you listed, is it eligible for students to access them after 2 years of an undergrad degree? That was something that was committed to by the Premier, I believe, a couple of years ago. We just haven't heard from universities whether or not they're accepting them, whether we can help with some of the gap cohorts. Are they now being able to process students sooner?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we are working with our NSTU colleagues to explore the potential around that kind of a model, which is a difference in certification requirements. And under the collective agreement, there is an article that has us needing to work together to come to agreement on that. So we'll continue to look at ways to make that as efficient as possible, to have Nova Scotia consistent and competitive with the rest of the country and work together. Now, there is an agreement, of course, under the Canadian Free Trade Agreement that any teacher that is certified in another province can move here and be certified here. So there are some provinces that do have a 2-year undergrad and then a 2-year BED. So if that person were to be certified elsewhere and come to Nova Scotia, they can work here. But to start out licensing here, we have a little bit of work to do to see if we can get to that place.
Thank you. MLA Rankin.
Okay, so not there yet, but at the same time, there was the offer for all full-time teaching positions to be allocated to the first-time grads. Just wondering how many first-time grads were extended that job offer, and then how many of the second-year teachers were able to continue in full-time positions?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question. The conditional letter of offers we've now done for 2 years, and 70% of the BED grads have accepted those conditional offers. I don't have for you whether those students or graduates all have stayed in their position or not. I'm not sure of that. But 70% of the conditional letters of offer have been accepted, and we work closely with our counterparts across the regional centers to make sure that those introductory new teachers are well supported as they move into the system. They can be assigned to a specific classroom. There are also some permanent sub-arrangements that have been made with those graduates. So I think the question for us now is to think about, as we get more and more information on what exactly is happening for our workforce shortages across the province in all of our education professionals is making sure that we're targeting those kind of policy levers. So remains that our really key areas are some specific geographies as well as STEM and French and some other professionals, bus drivers. My colleague, Mr. Jones, can certainly talk about the efforts around bus drivers, teachers' assistants. There are gaps in other areas, school psychologists. So the effort really needs to be a very targeted approach to where those gaps remain. We've come a long way. Our attrition rates are pretty low. The kind of gaps in supply are being filled. We've moved that along the journey over the last few years. Now we need to continue to get really laser focused on making sure we're filling where those gaps exist.
MLA Rankin with 50 seconds.
I guess I'll just, so I'm hearing from some teachers that you need 2 years of consecutive years of teaching to get a permanent placement. So some of them are now, after that first year, needing to start from scratch and entering back into the subpool. So they, in effect, lost their job to another first-year student that's being offered the guaranteed job. So I think there's a policy issue there that can be looked at. And I don't have enough time for another question, so I'll just leave it there.
20 seconds to speak. Deputy Barbrick with only 10 seconds.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I just wanted to respond a little bit to it because you're right. We do have a little bit of a policy piece there we've got to do some work on because what it's meant with the conditional offer.
Order. We'll now move on to the governing caucus. 30 minutes, and we'll begin with MLA Featheray.
Good afternoon once again. First of all, I want to say thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to ask a couple of questions. I'll be directing my first question to the department. I think one of the things I'm hearing clearly today is that we're moving in the right direction. I'm not sure if anybody is debating that. I guess maybe some questions might be maybe the speed or what needs to be done in terms of accelerating that. So let's unpack, because the deputy started talking about gaps that exist within the system. And so I want us to, I do recognize that from a system perspective that the department has the opportunity to hire, to recruit, but also recognize the regional centers also are recruiting and also individual schools. So I would like you to please clarify the role of the department regarding recruitment and how some of these gaps that you're referring to, how it all plays out. So
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and that's one that does make sense to unpack a little bit. The department, of course, manages provincial level policy. So some of the efforts that we make around improving conditions, respectful workplace policies, code of conduct, some of those things that ensure that schools are a safe place to work and the policy architecture is there. We also, of course, are co-owners with the NSTU and NSGEU and CUPE with all collective agreements, even though there's local elements of those agreements. So when it comes to things like wage patterns, that's the province sets those. When it comes down to actual recruitment and retention on the ground, of course, the regional directors of education, Mr. Jones being one of them, they are the hands-on relationship with all of the staff in the school system. And are the ones that are coming up with lots of creative ways to fill gaps, particularly in the allied professionals that also support students. So if you would like, I know that Mr. Jones would have lots to offer about some of the creative things that Annapolis Valley is doing to recruit different areas, particularly bus drivers.
Mr. Jones.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the question. Certainly in the Valley would look very similar to other regions, but I'll speak specifically as to what it looks like in the Valley. We have had a shortage in a number of different areas over the last couple of years. It's been improving. We've had a shortage of bus drivers. All of our bus driver positions are full. The challenge that we have from time to time is having casual bus drivers available when a permanent bus driver is sick. We meet regularly with NSCC. We have conversations with them for the programs that produced for future employees, whether it's the early childhood education programs, whether it's skilled trade programs to get mechanics to service our buses. So we've had conversations with the NSCC in order to make connections and go and present to the classes so that they know what's available. So on that side, that work is happening. On the teacher side, we meet regularly with the BED programs across the province. My RED Regional Executive Director colleagues, we've met last year in pairs at the different universities, addressed the university classes, talked to them about what the options were available that were coming up, answer questions they have around what's available in terms of job opportunities. So we work very closely with the universities. There's a university BED job fair. There's one every year at Mount St. Vincent University. There's also one at St. FX. The one at Mount St. Vincent is this month on January 24th. On a Saturday, I'll be there, as well as a couple of our directors. I know the other regions will all be represented at Mount St. Vincent, and that's when we have a booth set up, and then we're actually going to be talking to prospective employees, teachers who are finalizing their BED program, and they want to talk to us about what jobs are available and what would it look like if you wanted to work in the Valley, what it would look like if I want to work in Halifax, Cape Breton. Certainly being at that event in the past, I would be speaking from the students come from around the province on that day. I was speaking to students from Cape Breton University, students from St. FX, talking about what it would look like to work in the Valley. The regional executive directors, work as a team. Our first priority is to make it attractive for teachers to stay in Nova Scotia, number one priority. Secondary, we have in the Valley. If you want to stay in Nova Scotia, great. Better if you want to come to the Valley, but number one, stay in Nova Scotia. So those conversations take place, and we let them know what it looks like. They've got lots of questions for us, and certainly that's led to conditional contract offers for teachers, and it's been very successful. So that's certainly some of the things that we're doing in the Valley around teaching and other support staff for education.
Thank you. MLA Fatherway.
Thank you for that. Mount St. Vincent is very close to my area, so I really appreciate the fact that that's happening. I know the last few years we've experienced what I would call exponential growth in Nova Scotia, especially HRC and obviously Clady Park West that I represent. I'm just curious from the department point of view, what's the plan regarding for the future role of teachers in the context of avoiding shortages or overcorrection, as the case might be? I'm just wondering, because it seems like sometimes we go in circles, right? So I'm just curious, was there a plan around that? And if there is, what's that plan like?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So to my earlier point, I think what's been a gap, so health, of course, over the last 5 years, getting really focused on supply and demand expectations over time for all health professions really took off 5 years ago with the commitment around improving healthcare. Education was not out of the gates in that way, but it has been for the last year. So the work that this data and analytics team that we have stood up, one of the many things they're doing is not manually, but automated, building dashboards that allow us to populate in an automated fashion from all the sources of data that exist in the system that give us intelligence about what's actually happening. So that piece has been happening. The second piece is building out a supply and demand plan and a formula into the future that allows us to predict what is coming. So that has been a gap in education. Of course, teachers, given that they are largely 50% of the education workforce, have been right out of the gates. But equally as important are all the allied professionals that support the classroom, So that includes teachers' assistants, it includes school psychologists, it includes bus drivers. All of the things that have to support a school will be part of the development of the plan. But right now, we focused on teachers. So we've just recently gotten new population growth data. So our team is working with that data now. The formula around expectations has to factor in a number of things, including number of expected kids in the classroom, because that drives, given class caps, how many teachers and other professionals will be required over time. Expected as absenteeism rates, because that informs our use of substitutes. Student expectations around growth there, and a number of factors so that we can accurately, with some plus or minus under a few different scenarios, predict what we need on a rolling case. So I would say in past, we've been a bit chasing our tails on what do we need, what do we need, what do we need. And every year, all of these colleagues that do this work are faced with trying to get the class caps and fill that up. So we're trying to get much more predictable about that supply and demand model, starting with teachers, and then we will look at all the larger groups of workforce that we need to effectively educate children.
Thank you. MLA Fatheré.
Okay, thank you for that, because you brought in a topic regarding beyond just teachers. I want us to try to unpack the other specialists that presently exist within the school system, because I think that's very important. So I'm still going to keep that with the department. So I want you to speak about the range of specialized roles that are presently in the school that support the school teachers or students right now, and how the classroom teachers are responding to having this additional support, as in how that. What's the reaction like? What's the feedback like regarding that? I love the fact that you've been doing a lot with data, because sometimes without data, there's a lot of assumptions, right? You hear so many type of figures or numbers that make you wonder where they're coming from, but you've tried to help clarify some of the numbers using actual data from the department. So I'm hoping that you will speak using that in this regard also. Over to Deputy.
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question, and if it's okay, I recognize fully that I am the least expert at this table, and I'm still 1 year in the seat. I'm still learning lots every day and trying to catch up with all my colleagues around me. So I could rhyme off that list because I've learned it, but I have some colleagues here that have lived both as teachers, principals, leads, and REDs, so if you're okay with it, I would like to go to Chris Boulter, who can speak with some detail around that.
Dr. Boulter.
Thank you very much, Deputy. So if I may, I'll take you through a specific example. And what I wanted to do with this example is describe how some of the other roles, in addition to classroom teachers, might support both students primarily, but as a result of supporting students, for example, with behavioral needs, would also lend themselves to an improved workplace for all employees within the building, with both those lenses. So through inclusive education and the inclusive ed policy, one of the pieces that was initiated was a teaching support team. And essentially a teaching support team is an opportunity for a classroom teacher to figuratively or sometimes literally raise their hand and say, I'm having a struggle in a classroom. And perhaps it's a student who has a significant behavioral challenge or an intellectual challenge or a learning challenge, whatever it might be. So the teaching support team is an opportunity for a number of professionals outside of classroom teachers to get together to directly support a teacher with an issue that they're having in a classroom. So you might have a resource teacher there who would work with small groups of individual students and really focus in on a specific behavioral or intellectual or learning challenge. You might have a learning center teacher who would have a similar focus. You could have a school counselor there, of which through the latest TPA we've increased. You could have a speech-language pathologist, a school psychologist, and perhaps all of those folks in the room together with a specific focus on supporting a teacher through an issue. And I also, again, as the deputy has done a couple times, want to say the role of, for example, a teacher assistant is integral to supporting students and to ensuring that students get what they need. So when the classroom teacher comes to a meeting like that, certainly the input of other groups of professionals that support schools, including teacher assistants and other roles, are also very much part of that discussion. So the intent of describing the teaching support team is to give a real-life example to say we have a number of positions out there, both in STU, PSANS, NSGEU, CUPE, other bargaining units as well, that are all intended to work together collaboratively to ensure a safe, respectful, inclusive workplace, but also to support students at the same time. Teaching support teams are but one example of many where they come together and they collaborate. Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving on to MLA Wong.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for being here. This is I find this very interesting. Deputy Minister, if you could maybe elaborate a little bit or maybe some clarification, but I believe you said that 1.5% of teachers leave per year. Can you tell me where that 1.5 data point came from? Because my understanding is that Mr. Day had said that 1/3 of teachers leave in the first 5 years, and those numbers don't seem to jive.
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And again, I want to just reiterate that the development of dashboards and data use and analytics in this way is new. So we have brought together a team. That team has been basically scouring data sets. That includes certification information. It includes SAP information, not at the individual level, but at the aggregate level, to try to get a good data-informed look at what's actually happening. Because I do think we can kind of fall into a conversation when we only have kind of individual case examples to rely on that we actually don't really know. So we're trying to bring together with that the qualitative information that we learn from principals and teachers and leaders and organized labor to make sure that we're actually get a fulsome good look at this. So the data that's been extracted around the 3% retirement rate and the 1.5 leaving for other reasons is literally based on SAP data, which drives payroll. So we can't see the payroll information about the individual, but we can see the data sets. So that's what we're bringing together to understand better what actually is happening. So I think there's been lots of intelligence also provided by surveys that various organized labor organizations do, and kind of local information where people are asked to fill out cards for various reasons. Like there's all kinds of information sources. We're trying to get that as close to the accurate data. When you go to a payroll system, that's about as accurate as it gets because we all get paid one way or another. So that's where that has come from. So we know that the 3% are retirement, they move into a pension plan, and the 1.5 leave for some other reason. We don't know the other reasons. Lots of intelligence would come from that. And then anecdotally, I think Mr. Jones would tell you that Annapolis Valley, your retirement numbers are, seem to be in pretty good shape, not too many retirements happening. So the 1.5%, the why people leave, we don't know, but a teacher, like any other profession, has a million reasons for leaving the profession to go do something else. Some of it would be unhappiness, some of it would be move to a different job, some of it would be move out of the province for a spousal reason. So that's what we're really trying to put together so that we're all talking together. So in fairness to the conversation today, this data is all new. So we will dig into this data together with our colleagues and make sure that it's all mapping up and making good sense. Just like the supply and demand data, this is all new space for education to try to get really down to brass tacks. And so it's early days of that.
Thank you. MLA Wong.
Thank you for that. So, Mr. Day, I think if we have 600 new teachers that graduate from Nova Scotia, of course, not all of them are going to work here in Nova Scotia, but 600, but of the new teachers, you're saying that if there are 600 theoretically, that 200 are going to leave within the first 5 years. And I'm just wondering if you could tell me how you came across with that data point.
Mr. Day.
Yeah, thank you for the question. There was a study done through the UNB, University of New Brunswick. Actually, there's an article done by CBC just probably about a year ago, last January, which referenced this, and this is the national average of teachers in the profession that leave in the first 5 years. To your point about the numbers not jiving, we're talking about two different things. Teachers who are leaving the profession or who are not continuing on in Nova Scotia, but we're specifically talking about teachers within their first 5 years. And I can tell you that anecdotally I've talked to many teachers who have left the profession because of unsustainable working conditions. And that is the reality. And we know that teachers' working conditions are students' learning conditions. We know that we have many areas across the province where workloads are not sustainable. We know that we have issues with safety. We have incidents of violence, and we have teachers who are struggling to meet the needs of their students. So I can tell you that yes, we do have a significant amount of teachers leaving in the first 5 years of their career.
Thank you, MLA Wong.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that. So anecdotally speaking as well, so I had 28 years in the education system. About half of that was as a teacher and half of that was as a principal. And I can't recall anybody ever leaving the profession. I can recall people changing schools, changing school boards, but not actually leaving the profession. Now, I do know people that have left the profession, very few, but those are people that I didn't work with. So I do find that number exceptionally high. So when we do go back and we start talking about retention, if 1.5% or even if it's 3%, I believe there's a statistic out there, and this is not verbatim, but approximately 1/3 or less than 1/3 of people actually work in the profession that they actually went to school for. So I think if I look at teachers and it's 1.5 or 3% or 5%, that sounds exceptionally good here. So I find that interesting as well. So my next question, I think I'll put it to each of you as well. I hear the incidents of school violence. I always hear in the news that it's rising. I think the public has a perception that we're having gang fights and there's weapons and things like that in our school systems. I believe that not to be accurate. So I'm just wondering if there's a breakdown. Maybe this can go directly to Deputy first off. Is there a breakdown that you could break it down into smaller chunks? Maybe I don't know if you can go down as like primary to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, 9 to 12 of what you would consider violent incidents.
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question. So first of all, I want to make sure that school safety, we're talking about school safety from a broader perspective. And the Auditor General report was on broader school safety, of which school violence, of course, is kind of one aspect. The Auditor General provided us with 5 recommendations, all of which we agreed to and we're moving forward with. The large majority of them are complete. So in September, the Code of Conduct was rolled out, education was done across the province, and we are now in early days, not even through first semester yet, of using those tools in a fairly significant guide. I won't lift it up because it's a prop, I think, so I'll keep my hands down. And in that guide lays out 19 areas of unacceptable conduct in a school. There's quite a broad range in those, and some of those, of course, would be considered violent incidences, and many are just inappropriate conduct, including cell phone use and vaping in the bathroom. It's not a violent incident, but it's unacceptable in a school. So the Code of Conduct data incidences are now being entered into this brand new system that 20,000 employees are connected to. So the data itself is too early, like any quality system, to yet be reliable. So what we have is this data and analytics team are monitoring that. They're reaching out to see where there's real anomalies. Like we have schools that have 0 incidents. Well, that's interesting. Is that because people aren't kind of either trained properly or using the system or comfortable with the system. And then we have some schools that would have exorbitantly high. So are those being entered in consistently? So we continue the professional development to make sure we're consistently applying that. I am cautious about citing data this early. I worked in healthcare for 12 years. Data and quality systems, the first year is your baseline of trying to get everybody kind of ready to go. And then you start to extract some useful information. So the incident rates, what we're seeing, I don't think is any surprise. The incident rates are a small percentage of children, are kind of repeat offenders, if you will. The majority of the incidences are in our elementary school, which is not inconsistent from what I think MLA Wozni mentioned a little bit ago. So we continue to work closely. Again, Dr. Chris Boulter has been one of the key leads on this work. Mr. Jones beside me, of course, is responsible for the Annapolis Valley Education Center and is working and seeing this on the ground. Our data and analytics team is working with Dave and all of his counterparts to say something looks funny here, too high, too low. Can we take a look at what's happening while we figure out ways to make sure that everybody is using this well, so the data sources we get can inform real action and be reliable for us. So in the health system, first year of data is kind of viewed as, okay, let's see where that gets us. And in year 2, you can really start to see what's happening there.
Thank you. MLA Wong.
Thank
5
you,
minutes.
Chair. Yeah, and thank you for that. So I do want to say that I think all incidents are serious, need to be taken seriously. I do understand the strain and the stress that it can put on all workers in the school system. There's no doubt about it. But just from Mr. Day, I'd like to get maybe your perspective on the incidents of what we would consider school violence. I want to look at a child that could be 4 or 5 years old that's not regulated, and even with their parents, if they kick a parent or something like that, and we consider that school violence, I believe. So, but I'd like to get your perspective as well.
Mr. Day with 4 minutes and 45 seconds.
Thank you. Yeah, so when you look at incidents of violence, you kind of said that you're hearing about gang fights, and that's realistically that's not occurring every day. The vast majority of violent incidents that we're seeing are happening at the elementary level. These are students, you just mentioned a student could be dysregulated, and that causes the entire class to have to evacuate from a classroom because of the violent outbursts of the student. And this goes back to the supports that are needed for these students, whether it's a behavior specialist or a school counselor. These students are not getting the supports that they need so that they're able to be a functioning and part of the classroom, so that they can be a part of the school community. This is a reality that many of our elementary schools are facing, our middle schools and junior high schools as well. It's not just these big stories that you hear about on the news of an incident that happens at a high school. These incidents are occurring every day in our schools. We have students who are having very violent physical outbursts. We have ones, not every single one may be a physical violent incident, but we definitely have students that are accosting other students, other school community members, teachers, other staff. This is happening regularly, and these students don't have the mental health supports, they don't have the behavioral supports, and this is part of what we talk about when we say the need in our schools to address violence in our schools. The reality is that our teachers are doing everything they can to ensure that their classroom is a safe learning environment, but the reality is there's only so much that the teacher can do with the supports that are given to them.
Thank you. MLA Boudreau.
Thank you, Chair. And how much time?
2 minutes, 40 seconds.
Okay, I'll be quick with my questioning today. And I appreciate the question my colleague had mentioned about the committee that was established for recruitment and retention. And I do know we got a bit of information, but I really do want to hear from Dr. Boulter on just some of those recommendations and some of the things that have been ongoing from that, because I think it is important for the public to know here today.
Dr. Boulter.
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. If I could, I'll provide one specific example, and it's around substitute teachers. So Deputy Barbrick has already mentioned the current number of substitute teachers we have in the system. I think if you talk to any school or any RED or anyone within the education system, certainly there has been some areas for growth around substitutes and ensuring there's enough substitutes in the system. So in working collaboratively with the Nova Scotia Teachers Union, with PSANS as well, we are doing some work around a project that really should impact every school in the province around welcoming substitute teachers. So we know from talking to people who go in on a daily basis and feel like visitors in the school, I'm here for a day to substitute, what can we do from their perspective to make them feel more welcome, to ensure that maybe I substituted 30 days this year, but perhaps next year I'll substitute 60 because I had a positive experience and because I like a particular school, I will go there more and engage and be part of the school and be a substitute teacher. So our goal right now is we have done some preliminary work. We have a document where we're creating more of an interactive site for school administrators, for teachers, for other staff to ensure that every school does a particular set or involves themselves in a number of particular actions to ensure that when a substitute comes in, they feel welcomed, they have what they need to do the job, and that they're engaged, and staff throughout the school engage with them throughout the day. So one of the big pieces that we've learned through undertaking this work is that oftentimes when subs come in, they feel very isolated. And if it's a school that you're not familiar with, you might come in, maybe somebody says hi, maybe someone else doesn't. Maybe you can easily find the lesson plan, you know where to go, maybe you don't. So that is one very specific example of how we're taking some of the pieces that were brought forward for consideration around retention and recruitment and putting those into action and really putting some, filling it up, if you will, and actually taking demonstrable steps.
Thank you. You almost got it in there. Very good. That concludes our first round of questioning. We will now move on to our second round of questioning. Each opposition party will receive 7 minutes, and then the governing party will receive 14. So we'll begin with the NDP Caucus. Again, MLA Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is to the NSGEU. After what we've heard today about recruitment and retention in public education, what message does the current initiative to cut public service positions in this government send to teachers and the school support staff that have been working short-staffed for years now?
Ms. Mullen.
Thank you for that question. And so serious concerns, and with all due respect to the members in the room today, that we've heard all about the issues of recruiting teachers. I will say, and I'm pretty sure that they would all agree, that if every teaching position in this province was filled, that is not going to function the classroom as it should. There's recruitment retention issues with respect to the EAs and all of our supports that need to help that classroom function. A lot of the behavior issues that lead to incidents are folks who do that work with that student are important. Concerning if we think of cutting any further positions. These positions are crucial, and our members have been telling us exactly that the lack of ability to get the EA assigned to a classroom, that's obviously funded, and so there's some serious concerns about that.
Thank you. MLA Hanson.
Thank you. My next question is going to be to PSANS. Pre-service training and ongoing professional learning are central pillars of high-quality, people-centered school leadership. So in your view, how does the delivery of ongoing accessible professional learning sustain long-term retention of quality school administrators?
Ms. Hunt.
Thank you for the question. So simply put, supporting school administrators supports teachers, families, and most importantly, our students. And so PSANS is engaged currently in expanding leadership development opportunities and professional development that is going to be aligned and consistent across all regional centers in CSAP. So we are really excited to take a collaborative approach to make sure that school and system leaders get the professional learning they need and the professional learning they need rooted in today's classroom and today's schools, which are increasingly complex. And so when school leaders are well and their professional well-being is supported and they're valued, the ultimate result is that our students are well, our students are flourishing, and our students are achieving. And that's what we all want.
Thank you. MLA Wozni.
Thank you. I'd like to put the next question to the Nova Scotia School Board Council of Unions. Last year, members of the Nova Scotia School Board Council of Unions received a flat wage increase to ensure no workers earn less than $20 an hour. My question is this enough to ensure school support staff can keep up with the ballooning costs of housing, power, and food? And a follow-up question is, beyond continually low wages for education support staff, what other structural barriers or issues serve as push factors and high attrition rates amongst support staff?
Mr. Linkletter.
Well, thank you for the question. So true, while we had successfully negotiated some wage increases, which moved the members toward offsetting inflation, our members are still only surviving in this cost of living crisis. Our workers, our members, are the lowest wage earners of any classification in the education sector. Many of the increases that have been proposed has still been that percentage-based, which is just disproportionately penalizes these workers. So we're advocating to lift our workers up, so not only they are just surviving, they actually thrive. And we can see a path forward doing this with a meaningful flat rate increase for all workers. The Canadian Centre for Policy and Alternatives also released their 2025 data on a living wage, and yet a large portion of our members still fall well below these wages, and I do have a percentage point for that. It's 38.3. Don't make a living wage. As for your follow-up question, Mary?
Emily Wozni, would you like to hear from Ms. Fougere?
Yes, please.
Okay, Ms. Fougere.
Thank you for the question. So other factors driving the attrition, certainly we see an increase in precarity in the type of work that many of our members are undertaking. We see members, their permanent positions being reduced quite frequently, or their permanent positions being reclassified into lower wage earning classifications. Additionally, we do see a lot of our workers, our members, having to take on multiple jobs that end up sort of cobbling together, a full-time position in order to make ends meet at the end of the day. Not to mention that many of our members have to seek outside employment, sometimes additional or two additional part-time jobs to be able to make ends meet at the end of the day. The reality is that we still have many low-income earners, despite those wage increases having lifted the floor of many of our low-wage earners. We would consider those making $20 an hour. Inflation is still a very real thing. We've seen reports come out very recently, obviously, that food prices continue to rise, and we will see a significant impact of that in this coming year. Additionally, we see, obviously, the compounding of rental prices having increased, particularly in HRM being a driving factor in our members only surviving. They're having such difficulty making ends meet at the end of the day. With respect to additional factors, we did recently conduct a bargaining survey to sort of get a sense of maybe what those other factors are. And we've had some respondents indicate that nearly 45% of them perform unpaid work on a daily basis. 63.44% responded that positions were unfilled in their departments. 65% responded that their health has suffered due to overwork, and nearly 72% responded that workload has increased. These are significant driving factors with respect to recruitment and retention of these workers in this sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Emily Wozni, 10 seconds.
I will just say thank you to all the witnesses that appeared. Appreciate your input and contributions to this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to MLA Rankin and Liberal Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I guess having heard all of that, what we just heard, and the challenges about retaining EAs, we've heard about 1 in 3 leaving the profession in the teaching profession in the first 5 years, and we've also heard the department's very interested in tracking data. So I'm wondering if there's a exit survey. This is pretty well, like any good corporation with good, strong HR policies would have this exit survey that an employee would do if they're leaving the profession. Why? And is the department doing that and really seeking to understand the underlying issues why we're having so many people leave the profession?
Deputy Barbrick.
Thanks for the question. In terms of the direct employee practices, it's really the Regional Centers for Education and the CSAP that set their kind of employee practice. So if you'd like, I can turn over to Dave Jones that might offer up something about Annapolis.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Jones.
Thank you for the question. In the AVRC, we haven't had a formal exit survey. That's something that we're looking to implement. We certainly have lots of conversations with folks that are leaving. They leave for lots of different reasons. Depends on whether you're an EA or whether you're a teacher or whether you're a bus driver. So we're understanding what that looks like to see whether or not we can provide the best support possible for those employees. So we're learning from that, but there hasn't been a formal exit survey, but something we're looking at doing.
MLA Rankin.
And back to the, I guess, provincial level, does the department have a good, solid understanding of what regions we have? I know Annapolis was mentioned just as a side, but do we know where the regions are that we need the most significant, more resources or attention to focus on recruiting, and where are they?
Deputy Barbrick.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So right now, what has happened historically before we've started this real data and analytics journey is that annually the regional education centers complete really what's been a form with where their key vacancies are throughout the year. So we've been trying to track that. That clearly doesn't meet today's needs around data and analytics, but it is what we've had at the regional level up until now. So Dave and his counterparts are flagging for us in our efforts continuously where those key gaps are. They're not terribly different by region. CSAP, of course, has its own recruitment challenges that they're drawing from a French pool of employees that is smaller than what the others are. But again, those key shortages that we hear about, all the STEM sector teaching across the province. Of course, the more rural the area, generally the more that acute that is. Mental health clinicians and psychologists are a big across the province issue that we continue to work at. Counselors, speech language pathologists, skilled trades. So those are the areas where we continue to see a little bit of variation across the province, but generally a shortage, and lots of very specific local targeted response around that, as well as working with our post-secondary counterparts to do everything we can to make sure we're drawing on those graduates in all those areas into the education system.
Thank you. MLA Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I caught note that NSTU called for the government to develop a staffing plan to go with the capital planning that was approved. So the deputy spoke a little bit about a supply-demand model, which is, I guess, similar to looking at projected growth. And I wonder, to the NSTU, how has the government responded to that call for action? And I ask that because I'm in the Timberley area, and there's a big school announced for 800 students there, and there's a whole bunch of other ones coming down the pipeline. And so if we have this problem now, I could just imagine the challenge in catching up. So just want to know your opinion on the government's response to an actual staffing plan.
Mr. Day.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The concern is that we do need a strategy, and we do need as well as recruiting new teachers, we need to focus on retaining the ones that we have. We know that there are specialty areas that are in dire need. That is a fact. And we need to, whether it's through incentives, whether it's through programs to draw teachers in or to keep them in the teaching position that they're in, this is vitally important. when it comes to building new schools, we have to remember that buildings don't teach students, teachers do. And we need to ensure we could have all the new buildings we like, but if we don't have the professional staff with the appropriate training there, then it's all for naught. So focusing on our workload issues, focusing on the ability of the teacher to meet the needs of their students and have those supports in place.
MLA Rankin with 1 minute and 25 seconds.
A minute? Okay. Maybe I'll ask NSGEU, just what are you looking for in the upcoming budget for financial commitments to address some of the concerns brought forward in terms of providing a more healthier living and learning conditions in the environment of school?
Ms. Mullen, just 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Thank you for the question. Our real concern is to see that there's continued funding to put these EAs in the classrooms. Serious issues when we're told by our members that to qualify for an EA in the classroom, the child has to have a medical documented reason. Not all those reasons were medical. They're behavioral, and oftentimes the lack of that support exists, and it's a real serious issue for safety and for to be able to teach the rest of the children in the classroom. So we want to see no cuts, of course, to any of these budgets, and we know that, you know, in bargaining that we want to see proper increases to help with that recruitment. And the other side of it is the concerns we hear about the casuals. So when folks are out on a leave and they cannot recruit casuals to come in to backfill the EAs and so on, that's another issue. And there's a big discrepancy. And I know we're trying to make gains there, but to see any cuts to the education budget, we would not be.
Thank you. We'll move on to the Governing Caucus for 14 minutes. MLA Burns.
Thank you. And thank you all for coming in this afternoon and discussing recruitment and retention with us today. It's a very important topic, and we're hearing a lot about some of the challenges that we're seeing in classrooms and some of the improvements we'd like to see made. One of the things I wanted to ask about is so we've made a couple of changes that have been put in place, and I wanted to get a sense and understanding of how the changes that we've made and put in place are impacting the classrooms, the teachers, and the students, and some of the classroom behaviors. So some of those things in particular would be, so we've made a cell phone directive in classroom. That's had impact on, excuse me, the rules, the behavior, and the acceptability of use of cell phones in class. It's enabled the teachers to have the students putting away those classrooms, and we've heard about that effect being recorded as a code of conduct violation in our data logging and such. But I want, you know, in terms of recruitment and retention, this is an effort to improve the behavior in the classroom. It is in place, and I'm personally hearing good feedback. I've spoken to some teachers in terms of the policy, better enabling those teachers to be able to have a less distracting classroom, at least in respect to the students in their classroom use of those cell phones. So I guess if I could get maybe the deputy to speak on what she's hearing and you know, what that experience is looking like in terms of the changes we've actually put in place.
Deputy Barbrick.
Thanks for the question, and I will start out, if that's okay, and then I think Dave Jones, as being kind of living this every day in his schools, would have, you know, some more specific information. But the cell phone policy, of course, will be a forever challenge. Yes. Of course, all the information that's been very productive in classrooms, and I happen to have one grade 12 student that, of course, they like their phones, but he, you know, has just accepted that phones are not part of class anymore. And of course, that will always be a struggle. Young people are attached to these things. We're all attached to them too much. But that has certainly provided lots of intelligence around how that's working, and that's working well and having a difference in the classroom. The part that the code of conduct is going to help with is that we actually didn't have a way to actually collect data, back to the data. It'll be a bit of a broken record around infractions around that, and to support teachers. The code of conduct and all of the professionals that work in a classroom. The code of conduct piece as well has really one of the pieces that we're seeing early in, and again, Mr. Jones will probably add to this, is that our appeals numbers are actually down. So there's an appeal provision for a family of a student who has had an inappropriate behavior kind of issue at school. And because of the code of conduct, it's very clear what the infractions are and what the penalty for that is and the consequence and then the pathway to kind of working through that. So the number of appeals from parents is dropping because it's much clearer what the consequences are for certain behaviors. So we're hearing good things. Again, the data is where the real gold is going to be as we continue to refine and collect data in a way that's really meaningful. If you're comfortable with it, I think Mr. Jones would probably have some more school-specific information to offer there.
Mr. Jones.
Thank you for the question. Certainly, we're hearing very positive things around the code of conduct piece around cell phones. Since it was implemented, the reports from principals, from teachers, from other staff, is that it's making a difference. I meet with student advisory committee. So the students representing representatives from high schools across the valley. We meet on a regular basis, and that was one of the very first questions I asked them when I met with them. And even the students are in favor of the policy. They talk about how it means that they're able to concentrate better, that they recognize the distraction that the cell phones are. And while I wouldn't suggest every single student goes woohoo, I'm glad we have the policy in place. I think that the majority recognize that it's a good thing, and that they can focus on their studies better. We also have a regional SAC committee that I meet with on a regular basis, and that's representatives of the SACs across the valley. And that was one of the things that one of the pieces I asked them, one of our first meetings, and certainly they were reporting the same thing. What they're hearing on the ground in their individual schools, is that the cell phone ban is been very productive, and it means that students are able to focus, and therefore teachers are able to focus because the teachers aren't saying to the students, "Please put your cell phones away." And it's been very, very positive. In education, we often talk about if the students know what the target is, they can hit it. So we're very clear. To the deputy's point, we've showed the students what the target is, and they know what the consequences are. And now there's less ambiguity. They're not trying to guess what does teacher X want and what does teacher Y want. It's very consistent, and I think that's been a good thing.
Thank you. MLA Burns.
Thank you. And I think that a factor in there to consider is that change takes time. I know Deputy mentioned, changes related to the data, but as well changes related to implementing a new policy. I have 2 children in the school system. One's just moved on to university, so leaving at the grade 12 level, and another in grade 9. And I think what I see at the younger grade is that they'll go through more years of school with this policy in place. It'll become more familiar over time, and as we move back further and further to the younger grades, that expectation over time will help create a more an atmosphere where it's the expectation as opposed to the change that maybe the grade 12s are experiencing, where they've had opportunity to use it in the classroom as younger kids come into the program and realize that school is not a place for having their cell phones out in front of them. Deputy, I want to give you an opportunity we've talked about the data analytics and the data team that you have, and you've brought up a lot of good, useful avenues to use that data. But you've also kind of expressed that it's a new program, the data collection is in place. Having an IT and STEM background, I definitely have an appreciation for how much effort and work goes into not only setting up a system like that, but defining a dashboard and such. So I guess my question would be maybe a year or two into the future, what the vision for that system is when those pieces are in place, what outcomes you see being able to set the direction if we can get all of the data in a place that we need it to be, and how that could benefit in the recruitment and retention side of things, hopefully being able to better identify what the concerns and the gaps are and use that to take advantage on the recruitment and retention side.
Deputy Barbrick.
Thank you for the question. So my vision for this really would be we need reliable, accurate data that informs investment decisions and outcomes for students. So we're in early stages of this shift. It takes time. It's a new way of working. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention the importance of AI in all of this. There are things, back to my colleague from NSGEU's point, we've got people spending time doing things that we want to be as efficient as we can and use the people for the special people things that's dealing with our students and the complex families. So everything that we can do to automate information, that we're not having principals spend time filling out forms, that they can actually be in the school, moving around, working with the staff in the school. So we need to use AI everywhere we can to do the things that people don't need to do and save the people for the special people thing. So my vision would be in 2 years, we're getting better and better at this. The data is shared. We can all make decisions around it, and we can have really good conversations about specific interventions to get where we want to go with students in this province.
Thank you. MLA Burns with 4 minutes, 40 seconds.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate that the part of what you're factoring in is reducing the workload on the effort going into collecting that data. And anything we can do to get our teachers and our principals focusing on the school while still being able to take a data-driven approach is useful. To get back on track to my questions about kind of the changes we've made and the impact in classrooms, another one of the programs that we've recently put forward is the school lunch program. So, in terms of school lunch programs in school, it's a new program. It's experiencing these changes as well. But there's many benefits that will be sought from this program. Fed children are not focused on hungry belly. That helps improve behavior. That helps improve their attention span. It also makes the parents' lives easier with being able to send kids to school and know that there's a healthy lunch there and waiting for them. But as well, we're talking about recruiting and retention. So I think where that behavior we're going to see is in the classroom, a well-fed student is a student who can pay attention and help learn in class. Hopefully that helps with their focus and their attention span. And I think I want to hear some of the experience that's made it back to you in terms of how you feel that program is going, what the teachers are giving for feedback on that program, and what the direction looks like in terms of how that'll go forward.
Deputy Barbrick with just under 3 minutes.
Thanks for the question. So I had been responsible for the COVID vaccine rollout, and what was so amazing about that is everybody got the mission. There was no, barriers. There wasn't everybody got the mission. Move it fast. Everybody has to be in. I would say the second place I've seen to that kind of inspiring level of commitment was the school lunch program. So principals in the schools, the teachers' assistants in the schools, the teachers, all of the organizations that Dave and his colleagues, Chris and his team, we in 24-25 delivered 4.7 million meals to children. That's amazing, nothing short of amazing. 334 schools out of our 374 schools now have a school lunch program, and the remainder will be rolled out in September of this year, which is just the high schools that remain. So it's not just children that maybe that's food security. It's also children whose parents are working 2 jobs and lots of hours and all of those things that know that their kids can go to school. Now, are you going to find every child that likes every meal every day? Probably not. I think some of you have children, and that doesn't happen in my household. So lots of growing in the first year. The second year has improved, and I don't know if you remember the mac and cheese pictures from the first rollout, but this second year moving into middle schools was smooth and successful. So that is thanks to all of all of the employees that work across the education system and all of our colleagues here. It has been all in. People have been all in on school lunch program. It's been pretty amazing.
Thank you. MLA Burns, 1 minute.
Well, one minute as we wrap up. So that's amazing. That's incredible. I would have never thought that it would have been compared to the COVID program and the direction that went. So that's fantastic to hear. I think I'm wrapping up. So I'll say that I appreciate the work that you and your colleagues and the schools and the teachers have put into that. As with all of these programs, whether it's data collection, whether it's feeding children in schools or cell phone use, I think they'll improve with time. I think it's important that we make changes that impact the schools and the classrooms. And so, factoring in the concerns we're hearing today, I think at some point in the future, we'll get to a place where all of the concerns that are shared and expressed are at the point where this conversation is happening, that the change has been in place and we're working through the kinks and improving our school system for the better. I think that's the goal of everybody here. So
Order.
Thank you all for coming out today.
Thank you. And what we'd like to do now is to offer our guests any opportunity to maybe give a brief closing statement or a few remarks. We'll begin again maybe in the same order with Deputy Barbrick.
Sure. I have no formal remarks, but thank you for having us here today. When it comes to students' education, everybody here is all in. We all have a slightly different take on things or come from a slightly different perspective, but everybody here is all in. There has been a ton of investment over the last 5 years to do better and better in schools. Of course, there is more work to be done, and we're committed to that work.
Thank you. Mr. Day?
Thank you. You hear stories of people who are successful in life because of a profound impact of a teacher. Oprah Winfrey, John Legend, many other successful individuals attribute their success to a teacher who believed in them and saw and had the opportunity to see their potential. Now, you don't have to be a celebrity, but give our teachers the opportunity to see that potential. Give the teachers the time, the tools, and the supports they need so that they can see that potential in our students and that they can make their success a reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hunt?
Thank you so much for highlighting public education today, recruitment and retention, and all of the things that requires. I think I would just like to reflect on the fact that I think the successes that we've had point to the collaboration and the collaborative efforts that we've had amongst all of the professional groups that are here. Cell phone policy, I keep thinking about, it's not always the actual policy itself, but it's the ways in which we got there. And I think reinforcing the messages at every level to support safe, inclusive, caring school communities, that is our shared goal. And so the more we do that together and the more we collaborate and be solutions focused, PSANS will always be at that table. So thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Mullen?
Thank you for the opportunity. And to say my experience with NSGEU started out with education-related matters is an understatement. But we've made great progress working with everyone within the department and within the centers to get where we are. But our members are still saying, while there's progress with the code of conduct, they do see, as boots on the ground, inconsistent delivery. So it's a starting point, and I hope that we see a more consistent delivery with respect to that, the cell phone policies, and all of the above. But that we do give rise to concern of the work that is there within those schools with respect to the deputy's comments about AI. One of our admins said in a school of 900, there are 2 full-time admin with another 10 hours. So 90 hours of admin support for 900 students, 100 staff. That is a burden of work that exists, and they see a 70% increase in the work that had been expected of them previous. So we raise concern about that, and hopefully we can work forward together to get where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Linkletter, final comments?
So not really much formal. I just want to say thanks to the committee for the invite for CUPE, and we look forward to working with everyone around this room more. So thank you.
So thank you all for a great conversation today, very important topic. And we'd like to now wrap up our afternoon with you. We'll take maybe a 2-minute break, recess, to allow our guests to leave, and then we'll come back just to wrap up a few bits of committee business. So thank you. We stand in recess. Order. If we could ask our committee members to please come back to the table, we'll just wrap up our committee business. We'll move forward. All right, order. Just a little bit of committee business for us here. Just recognition of receipt of some additional information that was requested from our last meeting from NSCC, and the document's been shared with all the members. Is there any discussion about that? Okay, noted that it has been received. And just another reminder of our next meeting is on February the 3rd, 2026, and that will be an agenda-setting meeting. And our clerk has asked us for all the caucuses to please make sure that our proposed topics will be sent to the clerk by January the 20th. So is there any other committee business? Okay, no other committee business. We stand in adjournment. Thank you.
Good chair. Good chair.